What's up, guys? Brandon with Strict Vision. Take two. What's up, guys? Brandon with Strict Vision Athletics. Thank you so much for coming to this episode of Becoming the 1% Podcast. My guest today is Miguel Aguilar. He is the owner and the president of Self-Made Training Facility. We talk about his startup. We talk about the process by which the company has grown, where it's going, what it does, and how it pertains to you if you are in the health and fitness industry or if you are looking to improve yourself in any way in that field. Enjoy. Miguel, thanks for coming in, man.
No,
Seriously.
thank you guys, dude. I was pretty blown away when you mentioned our name, given you're a gym owner yourself, and sometimes some people think we're all in competition with each other, but it's really not, dude. Like, there's so much business for everybody. So when I saw that, I was like, dude, this guy's fucking cool. And then I literally was stuck on your page for like an hour, dude, because I was watching all this shit. I'm 42. So this is all my era.
Hey, really?
Dude. Yeah, I'm 42.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Yeah, I just turned 42 in August.
Oh, happy birthday. That's great,
Thank you.
dude. I appreciate that too. It's a difference of mindset. A lot of times you'll see, especially in fitness,
Yeah.
the scarcity versus abundance. Is there collaboration or is there competition? And for us, we've always found a significant amount of benefit for everybody involved if you just collaborate rather than anything else.
It's all relationships.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, right?
100%.
It's who knows who, where, what, and then all connects the dots. And then ultimately, dude, like, there's so many people in this world that we could help.
Uh-huh.
There's no real competition.
Yeah. And
Amongst yourself only.
Yeah. And a lot of people know about you that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
And if you get the reputation as a guy who only competes, I don't, want to talk about other gyms or other fitness things. Well, then, I mean, that's what people are going to think of you. They're
Correct.
going to realize that.
Yep.
And for us, we early on decided that wasn't what we wanted. We wanted to be a place to, voice anybody who's taken their time and dedicated their life to health and fitness is somebody worth talking to. I mean, it may not be the conversation you want, but it's definitely one that we always wanted to be able to host and have. And so much learning. I mean, so much just free education. We were talking about that yesterday.
Constant.
How podcasting is basically free mentorship.
Dude, I'm on this Alex Hormozy kick right now. Right?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Like, I came across this stuff, and it's like, I was just texting my team actually on the way here. I was like, this is a playbook that we would have to pay normally somebody like him 20-30 grand just to sit with them, for an hour.
His new book?
Yeah, his new book.
What's his new book called?
100 Million Leads.
That's it, yeah.
Leads.
You just
And-
got into that, yeah? Yep.
Bro, I'm telling you, if you just follow those principles, we've implemented it in the last 6 months, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And then the book's only been out for maybe a few months now. But in the sense that what he's done even prior to that book, where he had 1 million offers, that was
Right.
a really good book as well.
Yeah, I read that one.
And that was it's a game changer, like you just said. It's a blueprint that we could follow. But like I was telling my team, the only difference is the 1% that actually applies the information and knowledge that they're taking in. Like I was just telling you, I don't watch TV Monday through Friday. So when I go to bed, before bed, I read a chapter of a book, and it has to be a book that's going to serve me.
Sure.
If it doesn't serve me, I'm not about it. I don't.
Twilight.
Nah, dude, I can't do that, bro. And that's it allows us to apply. And then you get to see what the reaction is to those actions. And at that point, you then articulate it and literally put it into play that's going to benefit you and serve you. And some stuff will serve you, some stuff won't, because everybody's business is somewhat different, but the principles are all the same,
Yep. I think what's genius about what Hormozy's doing is acquisition.com. So he does essentially have like a high ticket offer. He gets people in by putting out a book like that with a ton of value, and then once people see and understand the value, a lot of those people essentially want to do business with him.
Yep.
And they sign on to acquisition.com. They tell him their business idea, and he takes running with it.
deliberately tells you that's his game plan.
Yeah.
It was like there's no hidden agenda.
Yep.
Which is pretty rad, And when somebody's that direct, that he's on the good side. Like he's definitely going to see the benefit, and then you guys both would be beneficial to each other if the business decides to line up with them.
Yeah. There's no sleight of hand at all.
No.
Which is very common. Sorry.
No, one thing I also really respect from him is his most valuable, like how he views his audience is their attention.
Yeah.
He values so much the attention of his base that he doesn't want to waste any time. He wants to be as most efficient and provide the most value right up front, which is great. He's not trying to sell anything.
He's not. And the thing is also, like, he brings it down to a third grade level is what he states. And for me, being ADHD, dyslexic, really lack of, college education, just graduated high school, to be able to pick up a book, even just in his very first 2 pages, he tells you how, if you have attention disorder or you can't really focus, like for me, reading a book by itself, it really has to be a really good damn fucking book.
Right.
Or I'm going to drop it. First 2 chapters, I'm done. And so he said also get the audiobook to listen as you're reading. That's been a huge game changer for me. And I was like, dude, I just picked that up 3 months ago. And since then, I'm retaining more than 10-20% of what I'm reading. And then also it allows me to like really articulate, like, again, the next game plan, the next move of what we're doing as a company, what we're doing as a, personal development as well, because you can apply it to both business and personal development.
It's interesting to hear you validate it because, I mean, you're somebody who operates a huge franchise. I mean, a huge company like Self-Made. And it's interesting to hear that from your standpoint. I mean, you're not, Hormozy isn't paying you to say this stuff.
No.
It's good to hear validation because you don't hear that a lot. And it's really good to hear that actually what he is teaching does help on the ground level. Can you, give me like maybe 1 or 2 things, practical applications from his book that you've implemented for your team?
Just on this book alone, when I first got here, I told you we just recruited, or we just brought on a team member. I don't like using the word employee. I got that. It kind of devalues the position because these guys are team members and they have vested interest in the company, not only financially, but also, with the growth of the company. So one of the things that we just brought on that we've been developing for the last 6 months, but the last 4 months, really structuring the systems to really maximize his position, was a talent acquisition manager or director is what we're going to call him. And instead of calling him a recruiter, or is more of like a talent scout for personal trainers, because my customer is the personal trainer.
Right.
But we see them as, business owners that are partnering and collaborating with Self-Made to excel and, their, not only their financial game, but really their knowledge in personal training, not just in the basics, really looking at personal training overall as everything. And then as an entrepreneur, you're not just a trainer. Now you're an accountant, you're a CPA to yourself, you're a sales. You do everything on your own in the very beginning, your own marketing,
branding,
to eventually where they can build their own team. So that's what we're doing. We're going to be recruiting talent. So the book gave me the play-by-play, how to do it, how to generate the lead for it, how to create the offer from the original book, and then now to seal the lead and to nurture the lead and to provide the lead with stuff that we would normally charge for. We're going to give it away for free. Why? Because we're so good at what we do, they're going to lock in. Why would they want to work with somebody else?
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Backing up for you at the beginning of Self-Made. Let's go even back before Self-Made.
Oh, wow.
What got you did you always have an interest for fitness? Where did that all start? Tell me about yourself.
So, I was a heavy kid, overweight. By the time I was 13, 12, I was 160 pounds and 4 foot nothing. And so for me, I was very uncomfortable. I was always picked on. And then finally, I got into football, Pop Warner football. That really drove me to understand. And in Pop Warner football, you have to meet a weight requirement. So I had to figure out the nutrition aspect, I had to figure out how to work out and all that good stuff. So that's what got me into health and fitness. And it gave me a little bit more confidence than I had prior to that. So that's how I got into fitness. And then at 16 is when it really, really evolved, is when I got into wrestling. Wrestling was my sport. That thing, literally all my success comes from the principles of that sport. Because it's one of those things where we got to picture this. You and another opponent are trying to kill each other on the mat. This is the way I look at it. And one's going to win, one's going to lose. And if you win, you share it with your team, because obviously the team is the one that structured you. You practice after practice after practice to get better and better. But if you lose, you take full responsibility. You can't blame the coach. You can't blame the team for that loss. You blame yourself because you weren't prepared or conditioned, or just they got you in a move that you didn't know the counter of. But just like that, for every move, there's a counter move. So I took those principles into business. And that's what's really got me into really loving business the way I love health and fitness. And now I have combined both of them with our concept. So for me, it was just being an overweight kid, but I had a really rough childhood. I was abandoned by my mom at 12. She was she was bipolar. They didn't know back then, but now I know, looking back at my history with my mom, very disruptive. She abused me and my younger brother, tortured us to a certain point. One of her torture things with us was if we misbehave or were stepped out of line, she would put a single sheet of newspaper on the floor, on a hardwood floor or tiled floor, and then she would put a single layer of white rice on top of the sheet of paper, and then she would make us kneel on this rice with our posture up. If my butt touched my heel, she would beat me with a hanger. She would beat me with a whip. She would beat me with whatever she could. After an hour of being kneeled in rice, that rice was embedded into my kneecaps, bleeding, you know, and that was her way of like disciplining us at one point. Even after she disciplined us, then she would love on us. It was the weirdest shit ever, you know. It was like, oh, I love you and don't ever do that again type thing. But who does that to a kid?
Wow.
Back then, I didn't know any different because I thought that was normal.
Sure.
Even to the point when I was about 9, 10, or 11, around there somewhere. We lived in Imperial Beach. She faked my own death. Yeah,
I'm sorry, what?
She faked my own death. Yeah, dude.
How and why?
So she was she loved manipulating people, and she was always like, she was so driven by money. Now looking back, but she faked my own death to collect money for the funeral, supposedly.
What?
And so none of my family talks to us because she burned so many bridges. So when we lived in Imperial Beach, we were 8 blocks away from the beach, and at this point, I was still overweight, and I would love boogie boarding. So going to boogie board, but we were broke. I had the cheap, you know, boogie board, and I had no rash guard. So I would get these rashes around my chest, and there would be like big round rashes around my nipples. So she knew I always wanted a boogie board. So one day after school, she says, "Hey, Miguel, I need you to sleep in the closet." And I was like, "Why?" And she was like, "Well, I just need you to sleep in the closet, and whatever you do, don't come out." I was like, "No, I'm not sleeping in the closet." You know, I was scared. I was like, "I'm not going to be sleeping in the closet. There's no reason for me to sleep in the closet." And then she convinced me by telling me, "Hey, I'm going to buy you a boogie board and a rash guard." I was like, "Oh, fuck. All right, cool. I'll sleep in the closet. No big deal." And so she set up the sleeping bag in the closet, closed the door, slightly cracked, and she said, "Whatever you do, don't come out." And I was like, "All right, cool." I fell asleep, and I started hearing doorbell rings, and I started hearing people knock at the door. So that, of course, it woke me up. Still didn't come out of the closet, but then when I started hearing people cry and yelling my name out in Spanish, Miguelito, they used to call me Miguelito in Spanish, is little Miguel. And I was like, "What's going on?" So I got out of the closet, put my ear against the door, trying to figure out what was going on, but I can just hear crying, and like hysterical crying too, not like whimpering, like people were really crying.
Right.
And I finally got the nerve to crack the door slightly, just to kind of glance over there, and then I see my brother Julio, who's only 11 months younger than I am, crying and saying, I miss my brother. I miss my brother.
You told your younger brother that you died?
Wow.
Yeah. So told my brother to basically fake my own death. He didn't know at the time till after that he saw me I was alive. You know how fucked up is that, right?
Dude, that is heavy.
Yeah, heavy. So that's why we're lucky we're not dead or in prison, me and my brother. You know, and we both went separate paths. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, so come to find out, I can hear her saying, "Yeah, I got hit by a car, and she doesn't know how she's going to pay for the funeral. She needs help." And I had aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody over at the house. My dad was not there because he used to work graveyard. He used to own Yum Yum Donuts, a franchise, Yum Yum Donuts.
Yeah.
And so he was an immigrant from Guatemala, got here, got his green card, and ended up opening up a franchise of Yum Yum Donuts. So he was a baker first, and then became the owner of the donut shop. And so he was always working graveyard. He was working late nights because some people would call in, whatever. So he was just a workaholic. So that's where I get my work.
He didn't.
He
know
had no idea
that this was happening.
Oh no, he had no idea. And then so I go back into the closet, freaking out, thinking I'm dead. You know, I'm 10 years old. I didn't know what the fuck was really going on.
No.
And then I wake up the next day, and it was like nothing. Like it was a dream, you know, to me, to my acknowledgement. And then I asked, she was like, "Don't worry about it. Nothing's happened." Then my brother was like, "I thought you were dead." I was like, "I'm here, dude. What's going on?" And he was like, "Mom said she needed money for the funeral." And then so about a week and a half or two later, give or take, don't really know the exact time frame, but I know after the fact, my father found out. He comes home drunk and beats the living shit out of my mom in front of us. And then my mom turns around, grabs the fucking butcher knife, and slangs it to him. And then he gets caught in his calf. And so this was all literally 9, 10. That was my life all the way up till 12. Then at 11, my father disappeared the year prior, ended up leaving the donut shop, leaving everything in San Ysidro and in Imperial Beach where we're at, and moved out to Riverside. I'm originally from Riverside, California. Mm-hmm. So we always bounce back also. We moved almost every 3 to 6 months. I never stayed in one elementary school for more than a year, give or take. And so we would bounce from San Diego to Riverside, Corona, San Diego, Riverside, and back in California. And so when my dad got fed up, disappeared when I was 11, literally left the donut shop when he went to work, never came back. We thought the cartel members got him because we live so close to the border. We thought something was involved because we're also connected to that world. And my whole family's all gangsters. And
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Most of my family, yeah. And so we assumed that's what happened because he just disappeared and left the donut shop, left everything.
Right.
And for a whole year, we didn't get to see my dad. Well, finally, my mom got a lead of some sort where she found out he was living in Norco, California. Well, he was living in Riverside, but he was working at another Yum Yum Donut in Norco, California off of Hamner. And that was one of his other donut shops that we didn't know about. And so he already started another life. We ended up jumping in the car, meeting up with my dad, and we stayed in the car. They were in there fighting at first in the donut shop. Mm-hmm. Then she calls us over, and we're giving them big old hugs because we haven't seen them for a whole year.
Sure.
And then we go into it puts a smile on my face just because it's so fucking wild, dude. To even every time I think about it, just so vivid, still in the sense. And so we said our highs. We gave him big old hugs. My mom said, hey, get back in the car. You guys are going to come back and visit him, or we got to go back to San Diego. So we went back to San Diego. A couple weeks passed. He said, hey, I'm going to let you guys stay with your dad for a couple weeks while I get some things in order here in San Diego. We meet up with him in Corona at a park. We go play at the playground, me and my younger brother. They're arguing at the picnic table, and she finally calls us over and says, hey, you guys are going to stay with your dad, and your dad knows that I'll come back in a couple weeks. I want to make sure you guys behave, be respectful, yada. Well, at this point, my dad already remarried, well, actually was with another woman, had another family that we didn't know about. I had a daughter that was born, so I had a half-sister at this point, and then 2 other stepkids. So we ended up moving in with our dad for just the 2 weeks, supposedly, in a 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside off of Magnolia, where we had literally, 3 girls, 2 boys, and 2 adults. So me and my brother alternated from the couch and on the floor for that week. And then the second week passed. We're getting ready to get picked up. She never shows up. 3 weeks pass. We don't hear from her. 4 weeks pass. Months pass. We didn't hear from her. After 6 months, we just gave up. We were like, either she's dead or something happened, because she's also, she burned so many bridges. We had no idea what was going on. So from the age of 12, when I got dropped off, still an innocent kid at that point, never touched a drug, never done any alcohol, nothing, to having my very first tall count with my dad at 12, to then doing meth for the first time at 12, because I got jumped into a gang at 12. So I ended up within 6 months of that transitioning, going into a new middle school, middle school, 6th grade, and hanging out with people that I was getting validation from the wrong people, in other words, right? They brought me into their circle. They ended up jumping in. Next thing you know, I'm wearing all black. Till this day, I still wear all black, slicking my hair back, pierced my ear. And then that's when I started that whole life, at 12. And by the time I was 16, when I got expelled from middle school, I was getting in too many fights. We had to move and transfer to another middle school so I wouldn't go to continuation school. So they hated me for that. Our stepmom hated us. And so we moved to the other side of Riverside, went to a different middle school, ended up getting a little bit better. Not as many fights, but figured out, hey, instead of fighting at school, I'm going to fight them out at the park, and no one will find out about it, right? So that happened until 16. And then at 16, my dad committed a crime that landed him in prison for 22 years. And so at 16, I was a junior in high school. 16, 17, junior in high school. I was already wrestling at 16. I got out of gangs. I went from one group to a completely different demographic of people, and these were wrestlers from all races, every aspect that you can think of. And it was cool because, I had, for the first time, I had an Indian friend, I had a Chinese friend. My boy Rami was a good dude. Mike Lewis was one of my best friends, African-American. And then Marvin Garcia, my 103-pounder. Like, we were a brotherhood, right? So this wrestling literally gave me that same validation as the gangs did, but it was a lot. It was in the sense of where I was going to end up in prison.
Right.
And it got all my aggression out. I had a lot of anger, a lot of hate prior to that. And now I was able to channel that energy into health and fitness, into wrestling. Like when I wrestle, and even now I do jiu-jitsu, I go to kill people, and then I'll hug you afterwards. But I'm trying to destroy you. I'm not trying to be your friend. And that gave me that outlet. So that's what encouraged me even more to get into health and fitness. I was a varsity wrestler for my very first year in wrestling. And that's because Chris Gillespie, a senior at that time, he, this was in 1997, took me under his wing and literally beat the living shit out of me and but taught me the best things about wrestling.
Yeah, gave you the big brother.
100%, dude. And I've never had that before. And so...
Because you were the oldest between you and
yeah,
your
me, I was the oldest.
Yeah.
And so when he got incarcerated, my stepmother kicked us out. She said, hey, we can't support you. We don't want you here. And I remember to this day, I was like, well, what the fuck are we going to do? And she was like, figure it out. Wow. I remember exact words. We were like, figure it out. And I was like, holy shit. Well, me and my brother been in the system before and didn't want to go back to the system. So I told him, luckily, I've always been a hustler, by the way. So from 14, 15, 16, I was hustling everything you can think of. Not good stuff back in the day. Drugs, obviously. I was moving a lot of drugs. And then I was also throwing parties in people's backyards. I'd go get 2-3 kegs, and then I'd charge $5, $6, $7, $10 at the door. Girls would get in free. So that all got me money in my pocket. So I was able to survive that way. And so I bought my first car from throwing parties at people's backyards. Got me a 1972 Camaro, $850 from a tow yard company.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude, I was stoked.
That's great.
Yeah,
that was a lot of money back then.
Oh, that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah,
And it was about 3 parties altogether to be able to raise that, you know?
That's great,
yeah.
man.
And so that got me my first car, and it ended up being our very first home when I was homeless. So we lived out of my car.
Inside of the car. Oh,
yeah.
my goodness.
And
You
so-
and your brother.
And my brother, yeah.
And your brother. Man.
Yeah. So that was, that's what, I would say that what's kind of what started the character and defined who I am and what I do now, in a sense. All those hardships, they're all part of character building and being who I am today. But it got even worse, though, because I got heavily, even though I was always in sports, I rode that gray area, like not slightly all the way deep in the black, but like slightly in the gray, almost black. I was doing drugs. I was doing coke. I was doing ecstasy. I was doing parties every weekend. And then I'd wrestle my ass off all week, and I was good at it. So it kind of validated it. It almost like made it acceptable, you know,
Sure.
and I knew no different.
Functional.
I was
Yes.
a functional drug addict, alcoholic from the age of 12, really, but 16 even further.
I mean, you said it, there's more, so I know the story isn't done, but
No.
it's an incredible origin. So oftentimes I think the term self-made is so abused and so neglected. People want to claim it. That's a pretty true
It's a
tale.
pretty true, but I almost like if you look at the brand Self-Made Training Facility
Yeah.
and the slogan Self-Made Family or where champions are self-made, those are all my trademarks. And I also own the company Self-Made Family, which is the apparel company, SLFMD. I took a very singular word, which was self-made, and I always looked at self-made as a positive until I got into my older years, a little bit more wiser. I was like, look, really in this world, no one's really self-made, including myself. But it took a group of people, family-like, to get me where I'm at today. So I combined those two words, self-made family. It's the family of like-minded individuals striving for success through their actions. So self-made, oneself has to take action. So you need the self-made out of it. But if you have the family, these are people like-minded like us that will help other people. Again, what we're talking about, relationships and collaboration, to really build true wealth and success, and in all aspects, physical, mentally, you know, emotionally, spiritually,
yeah.
I mean, financially, all of it. And that's where that combination came together. So it's almost like an oxymoron.
Can you look back on that time period and think or remember maybe a coach or somebody who was in an authority figure above you that maybe saw something in you or instilled that sense of family from a position of authority over you in a positive way?
Yeah, 100%. All my coaches. And then Chris Gillespie, my freshman year. I mean, Chris Gillespie and Scott own 2 locations, 2 of my franchises, actually.
Oh, today?
Yeah, to
Oh, that's
this
so
day.
cool. You
Yeah,
guys
that's
stayed
awesome.
connected
We
and
stayed
everything.
connected. We reconnected about 4 years ago.
No
And-
kidding.
Yeah. And
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's super rad, dude. It gives me the chills even just talking about it. It's a trip to look back and then look forward and I see where it's at. And the only time I ever talk about my past is to really see how far I've already come, you know? But yet I'm barely scratching the surface. But my coach, Chris, Coach Main, Coach Batdorf, and Coach Fisher, those 4 people literally defined that true start of understanding, hey, look, you can become something. You're not a product of your environment. but you have to take action. And you have to work really hard.
Absolutely.
You know, really hard. Like wrestling is
harder
no
than
joke.
other people might who don't have your circumstances
Well,
at their start.
I didn't have the genetics, so it's not like I was genetically gifted and built from, you know, being born or athletically fast or mobile or even the heart to compete, you know.
Sure.
But I had the work ethic, and I worked my ass off to become a very good wrestler. I worked my ass off to become a good bodybuilder. I worked my ass off to become a good business owner. In return, I messed up a lot. I failed forward. I call that failing forward. You know, you fail so many times, you're bound to learn, unless you're just, again, was it insanity, right? Insane is like doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result.
Oh, yeah.
Well, shit, you ain't learning that way. So for me, I've always constantly learned. But those 4 coaches literally implemented everything. One of the statements I remember, our coach would always hate, and literally hate, in strong word, like this guy would lose his gasket if we ever said we got stuck in a move, because for every move there's a counter move. So if we weren't willing to learn the counter move, then of course you're going to always be stuck. So if we ever heard that come out of our mouth during practice, oh, he would lay in us. Well, one practice, I was fatigued, I was cutting down, and I got caught in a move, and I was like, I'm stuck, and it just came out. Didn't even really think he was around. He heard it,
Yeah.
pulled me off of him. I felt like he was going to beat the living shit out of me and just laid into me. No, you're not fucking stuck. You got it. For every move, there's a counter move. And then he would show me the counter move. And then it was like, go do it. And at this point, you know, 17 years old, I'm like, dude, I have no father figure. So I'm looking at this guy. I was like, shit, I'm about to cry right now. You know, it's like I got put on the spot. I just fucked up. And of course, I wanted him to be proud of me. So of course, okay, I go and do the moves. And I put myself back together, and I kept going. And then after practice, he pulls me aside, and he got me to talk to you. I was like, oh, coach. I was like, I get it. I says, I get it. You know, I didn't want to get yelled at anymore or get reamed at. And he was like, this feels very vivid. And then he was like, you know, Miguel, you know why I'm doing this for you? And I was like, because I know there's a counter move. I know you want me to win. And he was like, no, I want you to understand wrestling is like life. It's like for every move, there's a counter move. Yes. And in life, you're going to have a lot of problems. And for every problem, there's a solution. So always remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. And that just stuck.
Wow.
And ever since then, I've always created solutions. If there's a problem, okay, what's the solution? Versus feeling stuck.
Yeah.
And I think most people, they get stuck. You know, they let a hurdle or something derail them and define them that they feel stuck. Well, no, look, for every move, there's a counter move. For every problem, there's a solution. And I took that to heart, and that stuck with me forever. You know, and then the other thing was like the work ethic that wrestling brings and the sports brings, and these 4 coaches brought to me. I wasn't the most gifted athlete, but damn, I can fucking work. When people were in the weight room for an hour, I was there for 3. If people were practicing, you know, 3, 4 days, 5 days a week, I was going 7. I did summer camp. I did off season training. I did everything I possibly could just to perfect my craft.
100%.
And that also helped me. And then the other thing that really helped me too, until this day, is I'm ADHD. So my attention to things, unless I get hooked on something, dude,
Same
I'm
here,
like
man.
fucking squirrel, butterfly. So if I go
I'm bad.
so if I go on a tangent, you know where it's coming from.
Yes.
Okay. So it's one of those things where, he would get not disappointed. He would be very frustrated with me that I wouldn't learn all the moves, right, for every move. And I would do the move, and then like a week later, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Well, I don't remember. He was like, we just did this last week for a week straight. I was like, oh, shit. Like, so and then he figured out that I had my attention was my disorder of attention was there. And he was like, you know what, Miguel? I need you to do this. I need you to perfect a single, a double, an escape, a submission. These 4 things, perfect it so good that no matter how good the other opponent, and they know it's coming, you're still going to be able to get it. And I was like, all right, cool. And that's what took me to state.
And focus on just those 4 things.
Focus on those things.
Don't get too caught up in because it's like chess.
Don't try to be cute.
We hear this so often, especially from the professionals, people who are in martial arts. The structure, the foundation, especially younger in life. We had Alain Ganali came in here a few months back, and same thing. He had a troubled childhood, found his structure in martial arts, and same thing. Had coaches, and had in his case, his mom, pushed him to keep going, and exactly what you're describing. It seems like it's I love what you just said, how wrestling and martial arts combat in general is so strategic, and it's a test in overcoming adversity, which is something that we have to learn either early on in life, hopefully, or later in life when it really counts, when you've got a business, you've got business partners, maybe a family, other people relying on you. Far easier to learn that lesson at 16 when you're on the mat with a guy rather than at 36 when you're about to lose your company.
100%.
What's the Bruce Lee quote? It's like, don't fear the man that does 1,000 kicks one time, but fear the man that does one kick 1,000 times.
Yep.
It kind of makes sense in that context.
And it's basic fundamentals if you really think about it. You don't have to know everything. That's a beautiful part about delegating to the right team, and that's what's cool about even wrestling. You are able to delegate certain positions for certain weight classes. That's why there's a weight class, and every weight class is responsible for their weight class. And I'm responsible for my weight class to make sure that I get the W, so the second guy has the encouragement and the faith and the inspiration to also go for the W, and then you can follow that with another W and another W, and then at the end of the day we win as a team.
And that you had a coach at the head of that entire organization, who understood the investment that he was making beyond just the sport. To your answer that you gave him when he asked you, why do you think I called you in? Why do you think I yelled at you earlier than him? Because you want me to learn? No, because I want you to master this for what's coming later. I that to me is so reflective of proper, especially I think proper male father parenting style. Because I mean, we grew up with an intense father. His father was around, but he was intense. But he always made sure we understood why that was happening. And it also, I think, you see this a lot in people that we meet who, maybe didn't have an intense dad or someone who never yelled at them. We see that a lot. I think guys, young men who don't have father figures or adult figures that are guys like coaches that get intense with them in a structured, positive way. A lot of times if they don't have that, they don't know what to do when because someone is going to get in your face in business and life. I mean, you hope it's not in like a street fight situation, but just in normal day life, someone is going to sandpaper you. How are you prepared to deal with? No one's ever yelled at you. No one's ever corrected you in a stern way. You're not going to be ready to handle that.
And it's unfortunate because you see it a lot more common now than ever. And, I deal with so many young, future entrepreneurs or trainers in the sense of my field. And it's very disappointing, but I'm over here going after that 1% market in a huge population. So it gives me hope. Right. But at the same token, it's like that entitlement, that passive approach is not going to get you anywhere. And I always tell my girls, so I have a 15 and a 16-year-old, beautiful daughters, and they're in competitive stunt.
Congrats,
man.
That's great.
Yeah, I love
awesome.
them. And we just, right now, they're in competition for their position. And I told them straight up, there's a first place and a second place. They're going out there to compete to get your position. What are you going to do about it? And I'll have those uncomfortable conversations. My youngest, Riley, the other day was stressing out and started crying. And I validate emotions. I get them. They're valid. I always tell them, your emotions are valid, babe. But you need to learn how to understand them so you know how to react to those emotions, because an emotional reaction instantly usually backfires all the time. And if it backfires, you're going to pay the price. So instead, understand, okay, why are you stressed? Okay, why are you crying right now? And let's go ahead and create that solution in a positive manner. That means if you need to work and put 5 more hours of practice to secure your position, do it. Versus here sitting down and crying, because that ain't going to get you nowhere. And she automatically bunkled up, and we had this long conversation, a very stern conversation, and a very direct conversation, age appropriate. Obviously, she's only 15.
Sure.
So I'm not going to be like super over aggressive. And she's still a female, so she's emotionally, most women are emotional, and I get that. So I'm taking logic and emotion and combining them together so she understands the approach. And after the conversation, she really surprised me, which, gets me a little emotional, because this is my youngest.
That's where she gets it from.
Yeah. And then it's, I was walking away and she was like, Dad, and I was like, thank you for being hard on me. I was like fucking blown away. I was like, all right, babe. Yeah, you got it. And as I'm walking up the stairs to go to bed, I'm over here trying to hold back my tears. I was like, okay, you're doing the right thing. Because sometimes as a father, you're like, am I too stern? Am I too direct? But no, these kids need it. We live in a very ugly world to a certain degree at certain times, because ultimately, no one's going to ever do anything for us. We got to go out and do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. That's it. If I don't do it, somebody else will. So I'd rather be the parent that's instructing that, or else an outside source might give them the wrong approach and tell them it's okay to be second place. It's okay not to, to go 100%. It's okay not to be competitive. I was like, that's a crock of shit. I honestly think like we're competing every day. You compete with yourself.
Absolutely.
And in return, you're going to get the reaction to that. You know, you'll get the first place. Like Ricky Bobby says, if you're not first, you're last. One of the best fucking quotes ever.
It's got real world application,
Dude,
even though it's
100%.
satire. It's still it's funny, but it's true.
Yep.
You ever read Relentless by Tim Grover? Yeah, I figured you had. It's a minefield filled with this type of stuff. Talking
Extreme
about
ownership,
Yes.
Tim Grover, Alex Hormozy right now on the business aspect. I mean, anything that's going to serve me, I'm 100% in. And since I do have that condition where my attention sometimes is not directed and engaged, really, that stuff keeps me engaged because I love business. The only thing I talk about or the only things I do, it's either business and my family. That's it. I have no real, you won't see me at a club. You won't see me drinking. I don't drink, actually. So then, to backtrack a little bit, I have 8 years sobriety.
Congrats, man. That's
thank
great.
you.
Awesome.
That's great.
And that's for me personally. I don't judge anybody if you do drink. If you can handle your alcohol, 100% go for it.
Sure.
I just know I can't. So the main thing for me as a person is always understand, okay, what's going to serve me? And since I need to leverage every hour, like I was telling you guys earlier, I'm now waking up at 4 a.m. just to get an extra hour and a half of work. And I figured out by looking at my schedule, how do I leverage this stuff? So that stuff is important. So if they can serve me and can benefit my life and make me have that much more of a fruitful life, I'm all about it.
That's great, man. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Time management and ADD, two things we actually find. It seems like the more people, I'll use Tim Grover's explanation, the more cleaners that we talk to, the more people who actually do come in and are doing things like what you're doing, the type of frequency that you operate at. There's a lot of similarities. ADD is definitely one of them. I mean, I definitely myself have it. I've had it since I was a kid. It seems like it can be a crippling, handicap, or it can be your biggest weapon. If you can learn to, and it's got to be healthy because you've got to learn to channel it, but you've also got to learn to allow people into your channel. You've got to be able to kind of turn it on and turn it off. That's very hard. At least it was for me. Was that?
It's a skill set.
Yeah.
100% a skill set. Sometimes it can be a little overbearing for most. And some people think we're crazy, and or they try to medicate you. Like everything they're trying to medicate.
Medicate me. They told my mom, get him on Ritalin. This
Yeah,
guy's crazy.
get Ritalin or Adderall,
Killing orcs in the backyard. They're not even there. Like,
dude, it's fucking so wild, right?
Oh yeah. Well, creativity and attention deficit disorder. I think your brain is it's sometimes wired for both.
Yeah.
It does the same thing. It's the same part of your brain that goes toward those things.
And if you look at most successful people, cleaners, like you said, right? They have that sense. Most of them either have it or they have a form of it, or they just have it, but they don't know they have it. And us learning how to challenge ourselves to understand how to channel that energy in a positive way has really helped, right? And before, I would mask it with drugs and alcohol. So it was very easy for me to slow myself down by drinking. And then, of course, I missed the edge of being like super wired. So then I go do coke. That was just masking myself over and over and over. And finally learning how to really love and respect myself had dramatically changed that. And sobriety gave me the ability to hone into this and say, okay, I'm going to develop this. I'm going to use it to my benefit versus to cripple me, right? Because it can really cripple you too. Because if you can't really pay attention, especially in business, oh, you're screwed. You'll be almost like your typical entrepreneur that first gets into business. They 10 shiny objects and they're doing all 10. They're the tradesmen of all, master of none.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to scale that back, and that's where most of my success has come from in the last 10 years, definitely in the last 4, because of being able how to develop that skill set to control it.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm curious, what do you do to unwind? Like, what do you do to kind of get your mind off business? Jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, 100%. Like if my wife, she's, if she knows I'm having a bad day or I'm stressed, hey babe, go do jiu-jitsu. I'm already going, babe. I'm on my way. And she's such a huge support, dude. My wife, she's truly like 100%. Doesn't, there's sometimes I'll say things and I say, I'm gonna do this. all right, babe, let's go. Versus, well, why? Or no, like always getting that counter of like, well, maybe it's not a smart idea. She knows me well enough that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it anyways.
Dude, that's
right?
great.
Yeah. So jiu-jitsu is like 100%. I went from a white belt. I've only been doing jiu-jitsu for 3 years.
Really?
And, yeah. Only 3
good,
years.
man. So you got to it like late.
Yeah, I got
in
into
life.
it late. Yeah.
That's great.
So I got into, so another thing with my health and fitness is, and the reason I like to lead in this space, because I can truly lead. I've been in every aspect of health and fitness. Obviously football, wrestling. Then in my older years, early 30s, late 20s, I got into bodybuilding. I became an IFBB pro. So I'm an IFBB pro bodybuilder. I did 4 pro shows. I got 3 third places, 1 fourth. After the 4th, I kept getting discounted for my discoloration of my skin because I would have to do the tattoo cover up, because back then they didn't like the tattoos in the men's physique category.
Has that changed? Is it
Yeah,
a
well,
little
now
more
it's
accepting now?
totally
Now
accepted.
it's fine.
But dude, I would have to get ready 2 hours before. Jan Tana was my sponsor and would literally cake on this stuff to be able to cover up all my tattoos, because I did bodybuilding. My very first bodybuilding show was Excalibur in December of when was it? I think 2012. I don't know, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Got first place, and then went for the overall. Got second in the overall. Like I was like neck and neck with the heavyweight, super heavyweight. I was just diced, dude.
Do you have any pictures of it?
Oh
Maybe,
yeah,
like, on your, where can we see it?
If you go to my storyline, go to my stories. If you see, it says IFBB Pro right there.
Yeah. Let's take a look. Okay, so are you in the center, right there in the red
center.
shorts?
Yep.
You're in the red shorts?
Yep.
Bro,
And
holy cow.
and that right there is tattoo cover up, dude. So my both arms are tattooed. As you can see, the discoloration between my chest and my arms.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I would get discounted for that, dude. And
That's annoying.
that was fucking the most frustrating, because
so
it's out of my control. And that was like Excalibur right there, first place bodybuilder.
Your tattoos are really aesthetic. I
Yeah.
don't even see it. I mean, I think they've caught on to it now. They're like, hey, we
Totally.
can't keep doing this. Everyone
No.
has them. But ultimately, I mean, the physique.
You can
what
still
did you weigh?
see. I weighed 179, 178 pounds.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's a
180.
great physique.
Yeah, middle heavyweight.
You know what I love about it? I can tell it's still functional.
Oh,
it's
dude.
It's not a.
I've always been. I'm more in the athletic approach.
Yes.
To bodybuilding than
you.
it was the size, and this is where it got to. So once I got to bodybuilding, the next step was to try to turn pro as a bodybuilder. So the coach at that time, I took 2 weeks to relax, decompress of the excitement of taking first, because that was my first bodybuilding show. Took first place.
Whoa.
And it was a stacked class too, by the way. And went back, revisited my coach. All right, what's next? All right, well, now we got to go for the overall. Once we get the overall, we then go for the pro. And I was like, all right, cool. What do we got to do? So he sets out my nutritional program. I was cool with that. Then he sets out the supplementation program. And I was like, oh, fuck no. He wanted me to get up to 225, 230, and stack for the next 6 to 8 months.
What did he suggest for you? What do you have, Winstrol? Or
Winstrol, Tren, D-ball. Like, literally, the list was fucking toxic, dude. And I'm smart enough to, so at this point, I'm already a father of 2. I have a successful real estate business. I was just doing this to challenge myself because I love to compete. Yeah. And I just needed an outlet. And also, this is one of my very first attempts to get sober. So because bodybuilding. I was like, if I do bodybuilding, I can't drink. So if I can't drink, I can't go do drugs. So I was like, all right, cool, hand in hand. So win. But then the fucked up part, I win, I go party, I do drugs, come back. Yeah. It was just, again, functioning.
And if you want to win more, he wants you to do more drugs. And you got to do different drugs.
Yeah, different drugs.
And this is where I think bodybuilding as a professional sport gets a really dark
space.
And the persona, it's justified. It is dark.
Yeah,
That's not health. That's not health.
It's
That's
not health,
terrible
dude.
for you to run that stuff. Tren and Winstrol together to gain, what was it? You said 175 to 225?
225.
That's insane.
To be able to drop down to light, middle, heavy. I mean, middle, heavy.
And you're like how tall?
5'9".
You're 5'9", and you. What's your normal weight?
My normal weight right now, I walk around 189, 190. So that's where I'm at right now. And I feel great. I actually love being at 185. 185, I'm between 6 and 7% body fat. But with jiu-jitsu, that doesn't go really well. And that's just, I intermittent fast. I really understand my body now. I'm old enough. I'm 42, so I'm old enough to understand what works for me and what doesn't. That's why I'm real big on health and fitness and nutrition in a sense is like for our app, we have 27 dietitians that work for us that manage our software and our app to help our trainers manage people's online training and online coaching through nutrition.
So important. important.
And the reason why 27 is we have all facets of nutrition. Like it's whatever works for the individual, right? So at this point, I was a bodybuilder. I got sat down with him. I said, "Look, I'm good. I'm not going to do this." And he was like, "All right, well, unfortunately, you're only going to be doing novice stuff forever." Then I was like, "You can only do so many novice shows." I was like, "All right, I'm good. I guess that was it." And then I was like, about 3 months after that meeting, he calls me out. "Hey, Miguel, you still want to compete?" "Yeah, but I'm not doing that list." I was like, "No, they're looking for a beach body, athletic, yada yada." There's like their new role is
Was it
men's physique.
Men's physique. It
Yeah.
wasn't classic.
I wish,
Classic came
dude,
later.
if classic was around,
could
I would
do
have
classic.
crushed it.
Bro,
If
you
you
could
go back
still
to
probably do it.
my quads were like always on deck because of football and wrestling. So I ended up getting into that, turned pro, because my goal was to always do pro.
Sure.
But I didn't want to be this massive bodybuilder. So men's physique worked out great. And then after 4 pro shows, I kept getting third. And then my last one was 4th place. And the discoloration in my skin, the color of my tones, always threw me back 3 or 4 points. They never questioned my physique. As you can see, I was always diced. Back then, you couldn't flex. So you couldn't have a Christmas tree, even though I had one. So just all these things that were out of my control, I was like, all right, cool. I've done my part. I turned pro. That was the main thing. I did want to get to the Olympia stage, but at the same token, wasn't willing to do what needed to be done to do that. And so I was like, all right, cool. I took a break. I ended up finding powerlifting. And powerlifting, non-subjective. I was like, it's either you and the weight. That's it. Either you're going to do it or not do it. So I got into powerlifting, and one of my goals was to be an aesthetic-looking powerlifter, and I did. I weighed in at one, so I would drop from 195 to 190 to 181 weight class, and I would compete at elite level. So I got my elite numbers in my second meet, which that's also on my storyline.
The powerlifting.
Yeah, powerlifting. Yeah. I put all my 4 accomplishments in health and fitness put in the storyline. So
Let's see it. We got maybe a lift in there or something. What'd you
I did
pull? What's your
1,500 total. So I did a 600 deadlift. I did a 547 squat. Yeah.
Look at that. Big pull. Heck yeah. Oh, that's clean. That's great, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so you transitioned to powerlifting.
Powerlifting.
What age were you when you made that with that shift?
Oh, 32 or so.
Nice.
Hey, Jake,
still
can you turn
young.
the sound off, bud?
Yeah, so Stan Efferding was my coach for this one. So Stan's a monster, you know?
I don't know Stan.
Yeah, Stan Efferding,
Yeah.
they call him the Rhino. He's a bodybuilder,
I bet I've seen his
Yeah,
page.
you've seen his
I
page.
probably
yeah.
have.
And that's the thing. It's that was also super competitive, but then I was again at another decision, you know, to be ranked in the top 10, which I was still an elite power lifter. So there's no pro in powerlifting. There's elite numbers and then there's novice, and I was an elite in my second meet. And by doing this, I was then again faced with another decision. For me to get stronger, I needed to do other compounds, and I wasn't willing to do these compounds. And again, hung up the thing. But it came in perfect time because that was my very first year that I owned self-made training facility.
Which was what year?
Yeah, that was in 2014.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will say I think it is probably the most problematic aspect of health and fitness is what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
The abuse of supplementations, especially hormones, you know, all the stuff you're talking about. We have this happen even now. I mean, even today, it seems like it's still an issue. People look at guys like, I'll use myself as an example. I mean, we will get people who occasionally will see me, see our stuff, see our company, and say something like, oh man, how's this guy that small or doing this? Like, why isn't he bigger? Why doesn't he look like this person? If I had that gym, I'd look like this. And it's not, I wouldn't use the word discouraging, but it's more so disappointing that the perspective of what is considered to be healthy is meant to be this jacked out of his mind on all the drugs type of person. That's what people look to and aspire to. And that's not realistic for anyone, including the guy running the cycles. That's not realistic. It only is for a small period of time.
Yeah, and then you get into the facade of social media platforms, right? And that is like such a the most dangerous thing for a young athlete, young individual, doesn't know any better, because this came with age. Luckily, I started in my late 20s, early 30s.
Right.
And I had 2 daughters. So I have 2 daughters. So it was, the decisions were not
And
based
a business
on me.
that was working. You had stuff going for you to where, hey, if I don't make this decision,
No.
well, I'm going to be okay.
I did it as a hobby.
Right.
I did it because I wanted to challenge myself and I wanted to compete. And I love health and fitness and I love competing. I love to fucking compete. Like it does. I'm scared shitless of it. Like I have a lot of insecurities, believe it or not, you know, but though I challenge those
We all
insecurities.
do.
Yeah. So I challenge them and I want to challenge them and I want to see how good I can be. And that allows me to do what I need to do. But unfortunately, a lot of young individuals, a lot of young athletes look at this and they look at the facade and they're like, shit, well, I got to do this to get there.
And maybe they have those same insecurities and they have a coach telling them, okay, hey, you're 18. You just won your first open. Let's do this, this, and this. And I guarantee I can get you to here.
Yeah.
And they don't have a real estate business. They don't have a family supporting them.
And
They think that's their only way.
And you got to think about it. This is one body. I don't have another one of these. I can't go to the closet and change my body and put me back to health or normal stability mentally.
Yeah.
You know,
People don't understand what they're trading.
Oh,
the
dude,
long-term value.
100%.
being in this space, very rewarding, right? Being very in the training facilities and everything I do, I'm really helping a lot of individuals through our training facilities. But at the same token, I've seen a lot of ugly things through this space, right? People from the age of 20 to 25 having heart attacks.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you see the bodybuilding world right now. How many deaths in the last 5 years?
Under the age of 40. Yeah.
Right?
Strokes.
So what does it tell you? And unfortunately, it's been around forever, but has never had the platform, social media, to see all this stuff. And now you get to see it. And I was like, you got to question, like, what is really the motivation behind it? Like, what are you going to get out of it? And that's where I get a lot of these trainers. I tell them, you look, if you take the same principles that you're doing right now in your body, in other words, the working out, the eating right, and you're still athletic, you look great. All those principles, and you apply those principles into business, what do you think is going to happen? Because ultimately you're doing this to make money, right? And if that's the motive, is to be successful financially, just switch the mindset of it. So that's what I did. I instead of going and competing to be a pro or to do these numbers, I competed in business. And that's where self-made came about. And then we just expanded and grew, dude. And then during that growth, I know my body so well mentally. I know myself so well. And at this point, after a year of owning self-made is when I actually got sober for the first time, decided to choose sobriety 100%.
And what exactly does your definition of sobriety entail? What does that mean?
So I don't do any drugs or alcohol. So I'll have a cigar, you know, that's plain as it gets. I don't do any Vicodins. I don't do pills. If something hurts, I try to go the more holistic approach when it comes to that stuff. But I don't do drugs and alcohol, just period.
Have you ever tried TRT?
Oh,
Or
100%.
anything? Okay, so
Yeah.
that in this,
No, I infuse, but I do it right. I go through Dr. Blancet out of Temecula, the Better You. She's been managing my blood levels and just keeping me healthy, because I noticed at 34, my levels dropped below 300. I was sluggish. I was moody. I wasn't productive. I was fogged. I was literally like depressed and anxiety and everything you can think of. I was like, what's wrong with me? Doctors, they just want to prescribe you drugs. That's it. Oh, you know, you need antidepressant because you're depressed. You
They're
know?
salesmen.
Oh, bro, they're the biggest drug pushers. That's the biggest cartel you can think of.
drug dealers
Oh,
and
bro.
salesmen, and it's legal. They can do and say whatever they want.
100%. And so for me, I've researched and I looked into many doctors, true doctors, and one of the best decisions I ever made. And it literally, it allows me to be 100% myself.
Gives you quality of life.
Quality.
Quality.
My doctor tells me, and she's funny. She was like, Miguel, you're going to live long and die fast. I was like, all right, cool. What does that mean? It's like you're going to live the life that you're supposed to live, and you're not going to die slow, painful death because of diabetes or because of a heart attack or because of this or because of that, because you're malnourished or you're not eating right or your hormones are all fucked up. Because if your hormones are all fucked up, your sleep's all fucked up. If your sleep's all fucked up, you increase body fat, your cortisol levels are all jacked up, your stress levels are all jacked up, you're going to get a fucking heart attack. And the amount of stress that I take on, which is good or bad stress, you can only imagine. If I wasn't healthy and equipped properly, what do you think? And naturally, your body decreases that between collagen and testosterone levels decreasing every year you get older. What are you going to do to combat that?
And our environment isn't helping that either. Our foods, our
dude.
waters, the pollution in our
Bro.
air. There's any number of things that are right now impacting. I mean, male fertility is. What was the last
Plastics.
time we looked it up? It's way down. Like in the U.S.
Yeah,
alone.
way down.
they were talking about that. It's bad.
I went to Europe. I just got back from Lake Como. I was in Italy for
I saw that.
over a week. Beautiful place,
Beautiful,
dude.
nice, yeah.
And me and my wife there. I left here at 195, 196, and then I came back at 189, and I ate pasta every day. I ate cheese every day. I had a gelato every day. If not, I had probably 2 or 3 pizzas a day, honestly. And I wasn't watching what I ate. And dude, let me tell you, it is wild, bro. Yeah, if you go to my stories, you see Lake Como. No, not the stories. The storyline. What do they call it?
The on the profile pic.
Yeah, the profile. You see Lake Como
up,
right there.
up to the top button.
I got it. It's loading. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a Lake Como, dude. Ended up getting a
What are you driving?
Lamborghini Performante. I love cars, bro.
It's like the modern day Bruce Wayne.
My wife surprised me. So
oh my goodness! Look at
the view, the place. It's just beautiful.
What are they called? I don't know what cars. Those switches that were right there on the front, like right there in the dash. What do those do? Are those
just the ignition?
Okay.
Oh yeah. Those are ignitions and just drive control and whether you want sport, performance.
Oh my goodness!
You didn't run into Clooney or anyone there, did
Actually, his house was four houses down from us.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh, what a gorgeous place. We went when I was probably 17, 18. We
Yeah.
did a whole Mediterranean thing, and Italy, I think, probably my favorite. Did you guys?
Dude, I love Europe.
Have you been to Rome?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Vatican, anything
I've been
like-
so. I overcame my fear of flying. That was one of my biggest fears. I grew up watching La Bamba when I was a kid, so that whole Richie Valens situation, the plane crashing, fucking destroyed me for years, bro.
Oh yeah.
When I first started self-made, I had to travel because once we started selling franchises and I got to Arizona, Nevada, I would drive here. Today I flew in, but I would drive here. I would drive to Vegas. I would drive to Texas. I would drive anywhere because I wouldn't want to fly. And then I finally had to overcome the fear of flying. And, I would, if I did take flights, since I don't do drugs, I was like stressed out of my mind. Like turbulence would freak me out. I'd feel like I was going to have a panic attack. But finally I was able to, during COVID, unfortunately, there was no real direct flight. So I ended up getting a private plane and going to my locations. And then my pilot, a good friend who recently just passed away, unfortunately, amazing pilot, amazing person. We're in a 2-seater plane together, traveling here to Scottsdale and Gilbert for our locations, and in Phoenix, and you get to know each other really well, And he was able to get my fear of flying gone. Like he just broke everything down. I'm the why guy. If you just tell me why and I get it and I understand it, then we're good. And he said, look, and no one's ever died of turbulence, Miguel. I was like, all right, cool, why? and then
Yeah,
so
Jake was a pilot for a while.
Yeah, I'm an
Yeah.
aviation guy.
yeah, so dude, he broke everything down for me perfectly. And no Wi-Fi, no music, so we really got to know each other.
Yeah, you just
and then
sit
from
and talk.
there, yeah, dude. Ever since then, I was able to, for the first time with my wife, we went to London. From London, went to Venice to Rome, and then came back for a couple weeks. Then ended up going to Cannes, Nice, and Monaco. I did the Grand Prix in Monaco. That was a huge experience. That was
That
super
sounds
rad.
so cool.
And then just recently, for our 1-year anniversary, we went to Lake Como.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's an amazing part of the world.
Yeah, I went to Milan and Lake Como. And that was my first time ever wearing color, by the way.
Oh, it's so weird seeing you in anything but
Yeah,
black.
I had
because everything you post is you're
I'm always black and white.
Yeah.
So it was a color attire that we had to go to, and I was like, "Babe, are you sure I can't wear black?" So like, "No, Miguel." I was like, "Happy wife, happy life." All right,
Johnny
babe, what we gotta
Cash.
do? It was like, shit, dude. Came out, and I was like, "Well, shit. If I'm gonna do any color, it'd be green. The green color of
Oh,
money."
it looks good, man. You look good in green. Yeah,
Yeah, dude, it was a cool experience. But that's like the beautiful part about traveling to other countries is you get to see their way of living. And the one thing that even to this day, it's very disappointing coming back to the States because I love the United States. I love what opportunities we have and so much to really just like grab. Is like one of my team members, Mark. He always says is low hanging fruit. Like we have so much low hanging fruit,
Yeah.
But as soon as I got to the airport, LAX, right? Kentucky Fried Chicken. There's literally a line every time at Dunkin' Donuts. Every time.
It's
Cinnabon Dunkin' Donuts, dude. And dude, so that's the airport. As soon as you land into Europe, what's at their airport? fresh delis, fruits, smoothies.
Oh yeah.
Well,
You
even
know,
the wine's better,
Oh,
like
bro,
for you. over
everything,
there. Yeah.
everything. And so,
Like you said, you were eating pastas
and I
pizzas,
lost 6 pounds,
but you
7
lose
pounds.
weight while you're there.
And
Their
I was
food
like,
is better.
It's just wild to me, dude. And then you come here, I'm back up to like 194, 193 right now, and it's all. And I still, I watch what I eat, you know.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate. That's what our states. It's just all backwards.
Yeah.
On the low hanging fruit topic, it
Yeah.
really cannot be. It is so important for people coming up to realize that just using the United States, you have so much opportunity that you take for granted. People who say they have, I get there's difficulties in any startup, but everyone can do it. Anyone can do it. You and I are living proof of that. It's
The only difference is the consistency. People aren't willing to give it 5 years eating dog shit. Like I'm still like I'm in my 10th year. This upcoming June will be 10th year in business as self-made.
so it's
10
almost
years.
at its 10 year.
10 years.
Congrats, man. That's
Thank
big.
you, brother.
That's a big
Yeah.
hallmark.
And then franchising only 7. And we've had many hurdles, many obstacles, but the only difference between me and other boutiques that have shut their doors or they're still stuck at one location is one, they try to duplicate my model, and it's difficult without knowing my internal systems. But second is my consistency.
And
my
not
drive.
having you.
No, dude, the drive. And the thing is now, taking another play off of Alex Hormozzi's playbook, I'm eliminating myself from the brand. So when someone says self-made, I want them thinking about my trainers, my franchise owners, my athletes, the vendors, the people associated with that. So oh yeah, they got the badass trainers. Oh shit, did you see that athlete lose 100 pounds?
Graffiti on the wall,
Graffiti
cool
on the wall,
colors,
yeah,
and
all that
yeah.
stuff. So it originally started with me, and now it's bigger than I. And I want this to be something so much larger than I, because it helps so many people. Like it helps the people that want to be helped. It helps the individual that truly wants to take their career to a 6-figure earner or more. Do I have trainers making $430,000 a year
That's great.
Wow.
Wow.
off of a structure, and their investment with us is like $1,000 a month.
Right.
But they leverage everything we've done. Like they use all our tools, our systems, our resources.
And that's in person and online coaching, guys. So it's both. Yeah.
We're more of an institution of education. We teach a personal trainer how to be an
I see that.
entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not in the personal training space.
You just happen to run your company from
We're
a gym.
education.
Yeah.
Yep. The vehicle itself is the gym, right? Because that's the tools of the trade. But the actual driver is the trainer. And that trainer, we're shifting an employee mindset into entrepreneurship mindset. That's all we're doing.
Absolutely.
You know, that's why I was really stoked on your place, dude, because I know what you're doing. And I was like, fuck, one, visually, dude, this thing is fucking rad.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
like a little kid in a sense, you know, because all this is stuff that I grew up with. And this is stuff that was motivating me. You know, who didn't want to be He-Man?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
who,
yeah.
Who didn't want to be the underdog? Who didn't want to be Superman? Who didn't want to be all chiseled up, you know? And that was like, it was cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's huge. And it plays directly to what you said at the beginning of this, which was the difference between, you know, competition and collaboration. You know, having the mindset that this is something that we can share with everybody. And I'm not worried about that, because at the end of the day, I mean, I know that I've built a system with incredible people that no one can replicate me. Nobody can replicate my team. I'm going to do everything I can to train people to make their own team and make their own systems and have their own brand expansion. It's an incorrect way of thinking when you think that if I teach these people, they're somehow going to usurp me and take over what I've done. It's just wrong.
There's a very small percentage that can ever do what we do.
It's in that.
To a
There's
certain
a
degree.
lot of hard truths in that statement as
Yeah.
well. And it's kind of a big part of this is, I think, a journey of self-discovery is figuring out, you know, where you're at and figuring out, hey, am I actually capable of, I mean, you mentioned it's been 7 years of franchise, been 10 years of existence before you know, took the family to it. People right now, guys starting out, hey, why can't I go drive a Lamborghini in Italy? Why am I not already there? Like, what's up with that?
And that's why I'm even very frank now. We have 5 pillars before we even sell a franchise to a franchisee. And this was just recently created because we've also had some setbacks. I've lost 5 franchises over the course of 7 years. We had 29. Now we're down to, well, actually we're back up to 28 because we just opened up 3 more. And we got about 13 in pre-approval stages right now. And we have
Wow.
about another 20 on the list.
How many
that
do you
we're
have
working.
total?
I have total open and operating 27 with another 3 opening right now, and then another 13 in pre-approval stages.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude. How many states?
9 states and counting. So we're now working on Utah right now. We're working on New York, and we're working on on New Mexico.
Yeah. What has been, in your experience, specifically dealing with the franchise? Because, I mean, the larger you get, the more problems can come.
Oh, shit.
What's been there's been controversy, I know, with Self-Made. There's been stuff that you have, maybe issues with the brand, issues with trainers doing things that you did not approve of. What's been that type of, what's been the hardest one?
The hardest part is, how can I put it in a nice way?
Yeah.
People will let you down. Plain and simple. And then people are always who they say they are. So that's a skill set that one has to learn by failing, right? And for me, one of the biggest and most difficult things is that nobody's just like me. So I got to understand that. So I got to figure out how to get to know them better, to understand how to drive that out of them, and then also understand when to cut my losses. Like, don't hold on to something for so long and be prisoned to your own thing. Like, I was a prison for a while with a few of my franchises because I would be crazy to think that this brand doesn't work, right? Like, the concept doesn't work, because I have, out of 29 locations, I had, 25, 24 crushing it or scaling by following a blueprint.
Yeah.
No questions asked, just, hey, we got it. Cool, let's do it. And we do it together, knowing that we have vested interests with each other. And they understand, too, that one location is not going to give them my lifestyle. So that was a hard thing to understand, too, because envy and jealousy is a real deal. Also, the lack of commitment to what somebody signed up for, and putting blame on others versus taking full responsibility. I take responsibility on the 5 that we lost, given that, hey, I should have cut those ties a lot sooner than later. That was my responsibility, because I should have known better. I should have been that stern individual, almost like a hard conversation you have to have with your kids at time, and say, instead of saying, it's okay, you're going to get better. I know you're going to do it. I know you can do it. I can believe in somebody, but if they don't believe in themselves, that's fucking hard, dude.
Yeah.
And that's a prison. Like, I can't, I know this works, but why aren't you doing what I'm telling you to do? And also understanding franchising, you have to follow a blueprint. You have to follow the model. If you don't, and you deviate away from it, and you try to get cute to do your own thing, it's going to backfire.
Off the reservation, trying to do something.
So that's one of the most difficult things, and knowing when to have those uncomfortable conversations to cut ties. And since I've done that, or it deliberately happened indirectly, I've had the best last 6 months based on just that. One, we do monthly meetings with all our franchises. At the end of the month, every last Wednesday of the month, we do a very transparent company. We go over everybody's numbers, what's coming, what new systems, what things we're doing, what innovations we're bringing on. So it's very transparent.
Yeah.
And then with the people that are not at the caliber that they need to be, because we have 4 streams of revenue for each franchise. We have the trainer revenue is one of our clients. Basically, we want to house between 35 to 60 personal trainers, depending on the square footage. There's the retail revenue from the supplement stores and the clothing and water.
Yeah.
Then we have our exclusivities we built out, like you have here, a massage room, IV therapy, hormone replacement doctors, med spas, anything in the health and fitness space. And then fourth, our VIPs, access passes that we limit to 25 to 50 VIP passes per location. That's it. Because we get bombarded with, hey, what's a membership? What's a membership? We don't sell memberships.
And correct me if I'm wrong, to get into Self-Made, unless you are a VIP, one of those 15, you have to have a trainer. You have to be with a Self-Made trainer.
Yes.
It's a brilliant business model.
And what's cool is our VIPs actually hire our trainers after they join. They're ones that say, I don't need a trainer, but then they see the boxing guy, is like, I want to learn boxing. Or they see the bodybuilder getting ready for competing. I want to bodybuild, so it's pretty cool to watch that whole transition. I've studied the shit, again, my ADHD. If I get fixated to something, I break it down to the bare bottom, and I know it works.
Yeah.
And so our locations that are doing real well, they follow that blueprint. If you don't follow that blueprint, then you try to deviate away from that, and you're not willing to get in front of a camera. You're not willing to expose your location, communicate with your trainers too. You have to have empathy. You have to be relatable. You have to understand, or if you're not, find a resource that can help you with that. And with corporate, we have every resource possible. So dealing with these franchisees, I can't make them do anything they're not willing to do for themselves.
Right.
And that was the unfortunate part. But now, given this whole situation, we call this failing forward. It's probably one of the best assets that's happened to us thus far, because I take everything that happened, and now we created the 5 pillars. So the 5 pillars to actually buy a franchise, one is financial. You have to get pre-approved and you have to qualify. Second, you meet with our franchise director of sales, and you have to meet with him one-on-one and discuss the good, the bad, and the indifferent of the franchise. What is a demand from you? So they're fully aware of what's going to take to run a franchise. Third, they're going to have to send us a video introduction of who they are and why they should be a candidate to own a franchise. Why a video? You're going to see how comfortable they are in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Social media is how we built this whole platform.
It's
like,
everything.
dude, we built this whole business off of Instagram, Facebook at first, and now we're doing other things, but this is still a key component.
Yeah.
And it's free. So if you're not comfortable in front of a camera, this ain't going to work.
Oh, it's everything, I think, even beyond this. It's
Also,
so big.
kind of like a cheat code in a sense. If it's all about money, it ain't going to work either. So they're talking about, I want to make this, I want to do that, I want to buy this. I think, to me, that's not going to help, because you got to help people first, then you'll make the money.
Right.
And then fourth, they have to get a workout with Chris, our director of sales. And he's a beast, you know? And not in a sense of beating them up to work out, but we want to see what they're capable of.
Right.
And see what they're willing to do. And then in conversation, as you know, when you work out with people, it's an intimate setting in a sense. You're with your brothers, your sisters, whatever it is. You're working out with an extended family that loves health and fitness just as much as you do. So you get to know each other really, really well. And then lastly, it's almost like the mafia. For you to come sit at the table, you have to meet all our franchise owners. And you have to meet myself and the whole crew at HQ. So we have a director of sales. We have our talent acquisition manager. We have our marketing director, our executive assistant, Julie, who's phenomenal. And that's a team. You have to meet us and all the other franchises.
Yeah.
And we're not going to interrogate them, but we're going to ask. And we're going to get them to know the good, the bad, and different, what it takes.
Yeah.
They also get to see the other peers, right? Why is, Gilbert and Scottsdale crushing it right now? And then the other thing, too, is we want to know something personal about them. If they're dealing with drugs and alcohol, we don't want to mess with that.
Right.
We had that situation here locally.
Do you ask that? I mean,
100%.
straight up, like, how's your sobriety? What do you do?
Yeah, you don't have to be sober, but if you're not mentally strong, you won't be mentally strong for this game, because this game, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of understanding people and being able to communicate and articulate your words properly to be able to address the information so they can receive it. And I tell all my business owners, which is my independent contractors, right? Because they're a business within the business. We're collaborating. We're partnering together to succeed under the idea of a personal trainer, right? Because that's where you want to be. But you as an entrepreneur have to do these things to manage a good personal training career. So by doing that, is the information that we relay over to these trainers and to these franchise owners, it's pretty basic and direct. Like, it's pretty easy to follow. The problem is, you have to deliver the information differently to each individual person, because you have to get to know them. I can be like, I have Chris, one of my franchise owners. I can be completely direct with him. He will not get sour. He will not get pissed. He gets it. All right, cool. This is what we got to do. And then there's others that are a little bit more emotionally, driven in their stuff. I direct them differently. Yeah. And I approach them differently. And that's almost a skill set in itself. It's just communication. If you can't communicate with people, this is not a good fit for you. 100%. So one, you got to love people, you got to love health and fitness, and you got to love making money. Plain and simple. Because those three things are going to give you a very fruitful career. And with us, these franchises are crushing it, crushing it. That's
outstanding, man. No. You've got an amazing thing. You've got a great business model, and it's so cool to see that it's scaled. I love the timeline that you're on. It's realistic. Yeah. And when people are looking at something, if they're trying to start something or enter something, they need to have that in their mind. They need to understand that I'm coming into this place with all these systems done for me. This is an incredible leg up. I'm not actually starting from the ground up with my name on it. I'm coming into something with a team, with a CEO, with all of these structures in place that I can take advantage of and just run with it.
Yeah, and even to the point where this is what really secures our brand. We've had, we had one franchise that was up for renewal. Let pride and ego and his emotions get the best of him. Decided he wants to do it on his own. And literally a month and a half later, he's closing his doors. He lost 80% because he lost 80% of the trainers because of our tools, our systems, our structure, our support, our national exposure, our brand. We're a household brand at this point, and we're only getting bigger. Like, we're not stopping anytime soon. And that's just by adding continually value into these trainers. Like, that's why I'm stepping away from the brand. It's like, I don't want it to be about self-made and Miguel. I want it to be self-made in my trainers. Because if you go, unless, my comparison is always the big box gyms, right? The big, not to belittle the companies like LA Fitness, Crunch, UFCs, all those guys. They're great gyms. If you want to pay $10, $29 a membership, go for it. That's what they're there for, right? If that's what somebody wants. But if somebody wants personal training, they got to go to people like us. Because one, we have independent contractors that are running and operating a business that truly care about the individual. Because if they don't, how are they going to have a fruitful career to afford us and our investment? All our trainers are investing with us. They're not paying us rent. You can pay rent. You can go do that at smaller boutiques or other places. Cool, you can go do that. But all they're doing is giving you a gym. We created tools, systems, resources. I mean, we teach them how to incorporate themselves. Once they start generating 60, 70, 80K or more, that means they're going to get 6 figures. So why not incorporate, save on taxes, use tax codes to your leverage, write off what you need to write off. Now you even have that much more of a fruitful business. Then scale your business, get another trainer underneath you. There's a trainer that we have. His name is Franco in Temecula. He's my corporate headquarters. He has one person underneath him, generates $390,000 to $400,000 a year.
Wow.
He maximized his hours. I sat with them 3 times, dude. That's it. And this is a guy that, like myself, takes action behind the direction. Yeah. Like, I'm still a student. I'm learning from Alex Armosi indirectly right now, right? So, I'm applying everything. I'm seeing what works, what doesn't work. After a year, referral business, our business, everything that we offer, everything that he offers, that collaboration got him to do what he's doing now. He hired a trainer underneath him. Now, instead of doing 50, 60 hours a week, he's doing 120 hours a week.
Wow.
By leveraging another person. And this trainer is super happy to be underneath his wing because he has a secure business. And because look, there's good trainers and there's great entrepreneurs, right? If you can be both, great. But sometimes we have phenomenal, well-educated trainers, but have no business sense. And they're not willing to adapt to it. They're not willing to like grab on it. I don't want to be in front of the camera. I don't want to be the face. Cool. Go underneath this trainer. You're still making 6 figures because she's making 6 figures. He's making high 6 figures. Yeah. Everybody wins.
And social media is not for everybody. I get
that.
It's an amazing tool for what we've done for your marketing, for your brand, all that stuff. But I also Eli doesn't love being in front of the camera. You know, he has a skill set I don't have. He knows how to do things I can't do. And having a system in place where everybody has their niche and their strengths that can go in a certain direction, I get why some people they don't want to be the face. They're very, very knowledgeable, but they don't want to be in front of the camera. And it's just really cool that your structure has allowed for everybody, no matter what your strengths are, you can find a place in there somewhere.
Yep. And then sometimes they can discover themselves there, you know?
And on that note, I love how your business model fits so well in the modern fitness world. It's like people a lot of times get frustrated or upset when they see people taking selfies at the gym or like self-promoting at the gym. But you guys like doubled down on that. And you're like, hey, go to town. And I love that.
I built everything off of Facebook and Instagram. I knew the leverage of it. I knew by telling a story, we would be able to leverage. These guys get to tell a story. And if you look at the marketing dollar that we're spending, you'll be amazed that it's not in the 6 figures, just in marketing. Because that's what people assume, right? Every time I get a question, all right, how much monthly is my marketing budget? I was like, $4,000. Yeah. They're like, what?
What do you want it to be?
You need a videographer and a photographer, or both into one, and then you subcontract it or you hire him, and that's like our Hollywood location. We have Isaac over there. I mean, it kills it. Phenomenal content creator, and it exposes us, and he's in-house, and he also picks up other business just because of the affiliation with the name. So he's doing 6 figures, so it's one of those things where it's created so much wealth within that industry that no one was ever doing it before me. And I can honestly say that.
I agree.
Because every gym has always looked at personal training as almost like, they devalued that craft. Big box gyms. They look at the money, right?
Yeah.
And you got to, where can you justify a gym, like say for example any big box gym out there, they charge, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's one gym in particular charges $65 for half-hour sessions. What in the fuck can you do in a half hour?
Right. Yeah.
So they're looking at it as a restaurant business. Get them in, get them out. And then the trainer makes minimum wage, which is $15.50 in California, plus $3 or $6 for the servicing hour. So that means anytime they're scouting or walking the floor, they're not getting paid.
Yep.
Okay. So again, devalue the craft. Yep. Then they put more emphasis and they highlight the establishment, the equipment as the value to personal training. That has nothing. Like, our equipment's beautiful. Yeah. It's expensive. You're talking between $500 to $1 million every unit, right? And I tell my franchisees in the very beginning, I tell all our trainers, that has no value to us. This is just a vehicle. You're the driver, so we got to make sure that you're well equipped to drive this vehicle.
100%.
And so we put the value back into the trainer, which no one ever wanted to do before. Why? Because it's time consuming. It's also an emotional roller coaster. You're dealing with so many different emotional people, so many different ways of looking at success. That's why success to me is not always driven on money, even though that's, people do this for financial gain, 100%. But if we can tie an emotional connection to that money that is driven by helping people, dude, it's a win-win. It's a combination, a cocktail of success for sure. And that's what we consider ourselves expert in that market and constantly learning and evolving.
And they're not going to make the bigger other gyms are not going to make the investment in the trainer. They're not prepared to deal with, like you said, they're emotional. We're all emotional. When they fail, they're just cut them loose, get rid of them. Like we don't have any.
Even to the point, like our contracts for every trainer are month to month. Why? Everybody thought I was crazy. No, we need to lock them in for a year. I was like, you do that and you have a bad seed, you're screwed for that year, for one. So we want an out. Second, the fear of going from an employee, because I remember this, I was in this position. So a lot of the things that I've done with the company is based on past history with what I've done with my own personal entrepreneurship, right? So like you learn as you go. And so I remember when I first got into real estate at 23, I was in construction. I was a commercial plumber. I didn't chase toilets. I actually built things from the ground up. Okay. So just to be clear. And then, so nothing against if you chase toilets. I'm just saying that's what I did. Okay. So I ended up, someone told me, that's one thing, another gift or skill set that I have is if somebody that I don't like stating the word above me, but if somebody has something I want, instead of envy or jealousy kicking in, because that's natural. Sometimes you're like, wow, this guy got fucking lucky. Right. I look at them and I was like, well, shit, if he's telling me I need to do this, all right, let's go. That's where the procrastination is death. My statement is, you procrastinate on a thought or an idea, you're digging your own grave. So I had a mentor at 23. He said, he knew I hated my job. He's like, hey, you need to get into real estate. It's like, one, you're bilingual. Two, you get along with everybody and you're charismatic. That's a win-win combination for real estate. And I was like, the homes sell themselves. And he starts explaining to me, and I was like, well, what is that? And he was like, well, as he's explaining real estate to me, I'm looking at his life. 2 brand new Mercedes outside, brand new house on the golf course. His family loves him. I was like, fucking guy's got it made. Looks great. I'm like, all right, cool. What do I got to do? Sign me up. And that's what I did. So we're doing the same aspect in this side. We're taking the employee mindset, which is very fearful of letting go of that consistent paycheck, into entrepreneurship. And I never advise them to quit their job. I'm just going to tell them, hey, you're just going to eat dog shit for a little bit and you're going to sacrifice time. Oh, yeah. That's it. And then they sacrifice it. And then now they have fruitful careers. Yeah. I have in my stories, there's this guy, if you literally watched him he joined my Orange location, which Jamil owns that location, and not my actual stories. If you go, let me see, keep going.
Yeah, you got a great presence on here.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
This is my daughter's. Oh, right there. Go back. No, the other one. Right there. That guy. 5 years ago, okay? If you go to his storyline right now, he will tell you a breakdown of everything Self-Made has done for him. And this was 5 years ago. Runs a multi-6-figure, like this guy, high 6 figures, okay? And literally breaks down and he did it directly. No one asked him to do it. But he took our principles, applied it to his business. The year prior to that, he was eating dog shit, right? To now be one of the most successful trainers we have. And all his investment is with us, his only investment for all the tools, the resources, and everything. And 5 years. 5 years. Is $1,000 a month.
There's something about 5 years too. I think that's sort of your first hallmark. You have to make that. It's funny. I use the exact same. The timeline's very similar for us. For me, I tell everyone I made no money with this creation for 5 years. I put every dollar that I also came from real estate. This is again weird. The similarities between this. I did real estate for 4 years. Got enough to get this place and start buying equipment, and then for 5 years lived off what savings account I had and put all the money from personal training into me just eating and buying everything else to put back in here. So eating dog shit, as you put it, for 5 years is kind of a hallmark for success.
And that's the thing, this is my flex. Everybody, like the watch, the cars, all the shit that I have means shit to me. They have no value. Those are great accomplishments that I have, yes. And it's a process to buy a 59 Impala or build one. It's a process to buy the Rolex, right? It took time. This is 20 years in the making too, by the way, guys. This wasn't over the last course 10 years. I've been in entrepreneurship since the age of 23. So this upcoming August will be my second decade doing this shit from trial and error. From going to dog shit to making millions to then dog shit again, bankrupt at 2012 to then that's how this concept started. It started out of my garage.
Heck yeah.
Dude, I started training,
love
same
it.
thing. So real estate was doing well for me personally, but I had this large office, large overhead. I thought I was the king of fucking real estate. My pride and ego, young kid with never having money before to finally getting a little taste and everybody feeding me this shit in my head that I was the best at what I do. Create this prideful, ugly fucking dude that I hated, right? And so it derailed my company, ran it to the ground, humbled my ass real quick. But instead of letting it define me, I took that and said, well, what am I good at? So we started training people out of the garage. As I'm still doing real estate, outgrew the garage, went to a cardio kickboxing studio. They maybe kept their doors open for another 2 months, and then they closed their doors, didn't tell nobody. The equipment's already sold, so all I had an option to was to go to a big box gym and interview with them because I still wanted to train the people that I was training. I had a good book of business. I was cool with it. And went to go interview, and I didn't understand where in the hell they thought they could pay me minimum wage when I'm charging 75. And they're like, no, we'll get you more clients, is what they said. We'll basically make it balance with more clients. I was like, nah, I'm good. I was like, maybe it's just 24-hour fitness. Then I went to EOS. Same fucking shit. Then I went to Gold's, and I thought, well, Gold's is old school, right? They used to have independent contracting back in the day before they switched everything over. I went over there, same thing. For every problem, there's a solution.
Yep. And if you're experiencing the problem, rest assured there's a whole lot of other people experiencing
That's what
the
people
same
don't
one.
understand is like, I'm wired that way. If there's a problem facing me, like you think you can derail me, it ain't going to happen.
No.
Okay, give me this problem. How do I fix it? How do I create the solution? That's how this all came about.
Yeah.
And then as that came about, then I started looking at entrepreneurship in the space. Instead of opening up my own gym, I was like, shit, I'll train trainers like real estate brokers.
Yeah.
Because it's no different. It's still service-based. The home sells itself. The training and the results sell themselves in the sense of that. The marketing aspect.
Yeah.
But the trainer or the realtor needs to learn how to run their business.
They need structure. They need a home. That's really it.
And that's what we did.
all that type of
Systems,
stuff, yeah.
tools, resources. You look at our back end, dude, you'd be blown away. People don't understand.
I love the transition that you went through, especially early on, you know, where you got the watch, you got the car, you got the cheap flex, as we like to call it. You know, these are the look at what I've got. And there's a lot of guys out there. We don't need to name the names.
Yes.
They never got past that. To them, that is what they do. Like, come get my mastermind. I'll show you how to get this watch.
More importantly, that's who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They never got past that. And some of them are older than you.
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of them are older than you.
Yeah.
And they never got past that mindset. They never realized the value is people. The value is that. It's not the car.
In the way for me to get to a $200,000 evaluation as a company, I got to help more people like that. That's my flex. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's not a facade, and people, sometimes it's hard to understand. I even tell my trainers, I know this sounds too good to be true. Like I tell you, like I'm like so direct with these guys. I get it. That fear of you like, this guy's just going to burn me, or he's just going to take advantage of me, or he's just pitching this, and then, you know, the bait and switch, and it turns into like, it gets handed off to the manager or whatnot. If you go to corporate America, which we're a large corporation now, but it's still like corporate America, right? Typically what will happen is that you can scale in a business. You can either work your way up, or if whoever you know is going to kind of help you scale, right? But as soon as you get to a certain position where someone is managing you, right? Because everybody, I got people managing me to a certain degree, right? Which is my trainers. Like they're keeping me accountable, right? But these guys will give you a pat on the back, give you hugs, give you bonuses, as long as you're making their bonus, which is a lot higher than yours, right? So as long as I'm making my manager or boss more money, he's going to be happy with me. As soon as I have a slump or something happens, they're like, get the fuck out. You're fired, right? No questions asked sometimes, or sometimes they won't even pay attention to you, and then eventually you just quit because you're not making any money for the company and yourself. Flip the script here. We take a small investment that's according to the demographic area, okay? And that's it. And we provide so much value for that investment that we continue to encourage them to do even more than just $120,000 a year, or more than $250,000 a year. If you want to get to 500, let's help you get there. that investment doesn't change. So for him making 400,000, right?
It's still the same.
It's still
entry
$12,000
level as it
over the
was.
year.
Yeah.
But you know what my focus is? How do I retain them?
Mm-hmm.
That's my bonus. Retention.
And he's your new flex. You get to say,
100%.
look at this guy he's now making $500,000 using the systems, and he's still paying me X.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed on my end,
Nope.
and I came through with what I said I would do.
Yep.
And his story can be replicated. You want to
100%.
try it? Come in and talk to me.
Yep.
And you've had to get really good about selling people on the long game.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah.
And I have to tell them it's consistency. You know, like you might, because a little bit of faith and a little bit of luck. That's what it takes. That's it. You know, because you just don't know when that opportunity is going to scale.
Yeah.
There's this meme that I love, and I swear I'm going to get it tattooed on me, but it's a little too characteristic. But there's that meme where there's two individuals, they're digging through a tunnel, right? And one's about to hit gold, the other one's pitchfork his fucking backside and just walking away. And he was like inches away from it.
Yep.
That's fucking entrepreneurship.
Where hard work meets opportunity. Yeah.
That's it, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
You get a good team around you, you get a good system, and you have patience.
Yeah.
Patience is probably the biggest key component to success.
100%.
Just keep failing. You'll fail further than anyone else, and eventually you won't.
And I think, you know, failure is a part of success. You have to fail to succeed. You
100%.
you can't expect it. Imagine, again, if you look at most trust funds, babies are more like people that are just born into wealth.
Lottery
right?
winners, all that
Lottery winners, what happens to them?
You go
They
broke.
they go broke. They get addicted to drugs. They don't know how to handle life. Same thing as if you don't have the conversations with your kids that are uncomfortable and direct, they're going to be enabled and they're not going to be able to face life. And that's the same thing. So if I'm teaching these guys not to face life, I'm fucked. I wouldn't have no retention. I'd be having to recruit every month 20, 30 trainers at a time because I'm losing 20 trainers at a time. And we house between 35 and 60 trainers per unit. And we're always between, 35 to 60. Always.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's incredible, man. Miguel, thanks for coming in. And seriously, this is incredible what you've built, what you've done, your story, the background, everything. Thanks for sharing.
Thank
all
you guys
that
for
with us,
having me,
man,
dude.
You
and
need to
opening
come
up.
out with a book if you haven't already, because that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I think, and I gave you guys the PG version, right? So there's a lot of things that I do have that in the works. Not right now, but I do have that planned. I think for me as a goal setter, for me is I want to get to 100 locations first.
Okay.
I'm at 29. We've had some roadblocks, but now with the new team, and the team that we have and the new things that we're bringing in, that's going to be done in the next 3 years. And then after that, that accomplishment alone in itself will give me the ability to really, really, really kind of launch that. And then the second book will be, once we get to 200 and the evaluation is a $200 million company.
That's
Very
amazing.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
a great goal.
Straight from a garage.
Yeah, bud. I love that. And obviously, personally, I
Yeah.
love the startup of it as well.
Thank you, brother.
Well, thank you
Appreciate
again. The gym is a self-made facility. And where would a trainer go if they wanted to get involved with this? Last question.
So they would go to selfmadetrainingfacility.com. There's all the portals there for them. So if they want to become a trainer, just go to the application aspect. If they want to be a franchisee, go to the franchise inquiry applicant. If they just want to be an athlete, by the way, when I say athlete, that's our consumer. I hate using the word client just personally
Same here, yeah.
because they're not here to just buy something and leave. They're here to perform as an athlete. So for us, we really validate their approach because we know how difficult it is as a consumer to ask for another human being for help in something that they're either insecure about or they want to progress in a sport. It's difficult to ask for help at times. So I understand that leverage. So if you are an athlete, you just go to our website, go elect a trainer that best fits their personality. All their contact information is on there. We have a lot of regulations that we have to follow when it comes to independent contracting. So all the information you need about a trainer is on the website. Their phone numbers, their emails, their Instagrams, their bio, their certifications, even a video introduction of who they are and what they're about. So you can kind of gauge their personality and then make the decision based on your personality because all our trainers are phenomenal. They're all great trainers.
Yep. And they're vetted and you've done your homework.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. That's great. We'll cut it there.
Dope.
Nice. Thank you guys so much for watching that episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. If you like the content and you want to see more of it, hit the like and subscribe. Activate that notification bell as well. We really appreciate it. If you guys want to see more of it, we actually have the Becoming the 1% Instagram, and the podcast is available on Spotify. For our socials, we have Strict Vision Athletics on Instagram, we have it on YouTube, and we have it on TikTok.